The leaders within the business need to have that conversation openly with the people that will be affected by the change, and say, this is what our current world looks like, this is what your job looks like day to day. After we implement this change, this is what your job will look like once we've done that. This is now what you're going to be doing day to day. And I think that is sometimes something that can be missed. People get excited about the new things they can do and the ways that it can make improve their business. Bringing those people along, their staff along with them, is equally as important. We worked recently with a company in the healthcare sector, and the CEO, founder of the business, built it from nothing up to multi-hundreds of £1 million turnover business in the space of 15 years. Had very specific ideas about how he wanted people to do their day-to-day job. That his approach had a very good idea for how to implement a new service for his customers, and had a very clear idea about how that should work. This was it was clinical, so it required some medical knowledge. Now, he had some, but he'd not been on the front line for a long time, and he was very reluctant to get the kind of staff involved. They would want to protect some of the ways that they're doing things now, because it's kind of almost inherent in that sector that people have a way of doing things, they want to keep doing things that way. If you rely too much on a top-down approach to system design, what you may end up is something that actually doesn't support the realities of doing the job day to day. I think that's one of the key reasons of having people involved in those co-design workshops. The challenge is, the more opinions you have, the more difficult it is to have consensus. Yes, you take opinions from many sides and you get people involved, but actually somebody makes the decision. And that's, again, a really clear, really important thing. Yes, you get input from lots of people and you get their opinion, but ultimately you need someone who can say, this is the vision, this is what we're going to do. You should establish a structure for decision making within a project from the beginning, so some very clear reporting lines. I favour a model where you have a product owner, if you like, somebody who can make the ultimate decisions. They will take information from lots of different places, but ultimately they say this is how it's going to be. If you try and change that as you go through, it's likely to mean that the requirements are ill-defined. So there is a model you can use called RACI, which is you define who's responsible for something, and that's usually the person doing the work. Somebody who's accountable, and that's usually the person checking the work and making sure that the responsible person is doing it correctly. Somebody who's consulted, and that is people who the responsible person may gather information from in order to achieve their goal, and then those who are informed. So they don't actually, that's the I of RACI, they don't actually necessarily have any input, but they are told what's happening. You can break things down into different chunks, different areas of responsibility, and say actually that ratio changes depending on which part of an organisation you're working with. But even then, you may end up with two different areas of responsibility that come into conflict, and therefore you need an overall person who is accountable for making sure that the project gets delivered. It's quite easy to have a structure in place if you're intentional about it from the start, and you make sure that you have regular, defined, let's say, milestones within a project at which those people can be either consulted or informed as to what's going on. Okay, so what makes it a really productive process is when you've got, going into one of those co-design workshops, you're very clear what you want to achieve in that time. You've got the right people in the room who have the information that you need, and everyone knows not just what features you're working on, but the ultimate goal of the project, and they've bought into the fact that this is a good idea. That's how you make it a success.